Hey there, fight fans. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this episode of Combat Sports Talk. Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is the man with the keys to victory, John Keys.
Hey everybody, what's going on? How are things on this beautiful planet Earth?
Well, things are going pretty good, and we have a lot to talk about. You know, it's one of those things where it's one of those things where it's odd because we don't normally have a fight on Sunday night. But this week we've got not only a fight, but we've got one that is an interesting fight for everyone who doesn't follow combat sports.
Exactly, really.
Yeah. Even all the casuals out there, tonight is a special night.
This is you. This is all for y'all, okay? Because
wait, you saying that the casuals are watching our show? It's casuals? You think our audience is casual? Our audience is not casuals. We have trained them. We have taught them. They have elevated from casual status to now they are experts in this sport.
And I'll give you that. And they are, all right, because we have been here faithfully week after week, with the exception of last week, because, happy D-Day, everybody. Go out there, punch a Nazi in the face, all right? Do the Captain America thing.
Yeah, do you have to wait until D-Day to punch a Nazi in the face, or is that a 365-day invitation?
It's only on days that end in Y. Okay, let's just say it like that. Okay. Yeah, secondly, hold on. There's Captain America right up there.
Yeah. Do we need to zoom in on that?
Oh no. You can if you want. I don't think he actually. No, there isn't. He's not punching the Nazi. He's punching Red Skull in the top left-hand corner there. But he's not doing the Nazi punching.
All right.
But
we invite everyone. We invite everyone. If you see a Nazi and they're in punching range,
go ahead.
Tuck your chin.
Just let them know. Yeah.
Keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs. That's what we encourage
all day long. But and go back to the whole casual thing. Look, we're not going to dog on anybody that's casual, because guess what? We were all casuals at one time in our lives. Right. I was casual back in 1993 when I saw Royce Gracie shoot in. All right, when I saw the first match of UFC, along with the announcers, with Kathy Long, Bill Superfoot Wallace, and Jim Brown. Along with them, I was a casual with them. Okay, so let it be said, we all start.
Since you're sharing your casual moment, I'm going to share my casual moment.
Okay.
So even though I did see the VHS replay of UFC 1, that's right, on VHS. I was a casual there. But I couldn't handle the rawness of combat. So my casual moment, the moment where I got into this sport, and I'm like, this is my jam. It was in 2006 on Spike TV, watching David Loiseau, the Crow, do his work, ground and pound. I don't even remember who he was fighting, but I was captivated by how he was controlling his opponent and dropping these elbows that was just, cutting this guy up. And I was hooked after that. And it took me a while, a few years of watching the sport and seeing the patterns over and over again as they rolled from, one position to another, and getting to know the Joe Rogans and the Goldies and all that kind of stuff. That's where I became more well-versed in this sport. So, everyone starts off a casual. I think that's a great comment to kind of kick off the show.
Yeah, indeed. Like I said, I can remember when Joe Rogan had hair.
Right?
Yeah, a full head, of hair. And, and it's surprising. His first interview was with Tito Ortiz, okay? It really was with Tito Ortiz back in the day. So yeah, let's get this party started because I
let's
could
get it
talk
going.
I could talk all day long about the evolution of the of mixed martial arts from the beginning of trying to define which martial arts is the best martial arts to now we're at the level of who's the better fighter now that we have mixed martial arts synthesized as it is.
Yep.
So
Okay. Well, you are our historian, and so we definitely want to ensure that you have ample time to educate as well as entertain.
I will try my best
All
on
right.
both fronts.
All
So
right.
let's get
Well,
this party
you know,
started.
what worked really well is we've got a couple of things. We can go left or we can go right. The road is forked. So what do you want to do? Do you want to go straight into the headliner, or do you want to do a recap of UFC Vegas 28 Rozenstruik versus Sakai?
You know, we can do UFC 28 because it was a good fight. It was a good all round event. You know, they were back at the apex, which I appreciate. It looks like that's what the formula is. What's going to be from now on is that they're going to do the fight nights at the apex and then do the pay-per-views with people, which I'm okay with because I like the intimacy of two fighters in the ring, no crowd, just their coaches. So
all right,
yeah, we could do that.
let's get into it. This is UFC Vegas 28 Rozenstruik versus Sakai and the official decision. This is the official decision. This is where we talk about the fights from Saturday night, and we have UFC Vegas 28 Rozenstruik versus Sakai Saturday, June 5th, 2021 at the Apex Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. We had 5 fights on the card. First fight of the night was Gregory Rodriguez defeated Dusko Todorovic via unanimous decision, 30-27 and 29-28.
Good fight. I mean, it was back and forth. I mean, I didn't see any controversy that we saw the past few events where there was like, wait a minute, what is this 10-8? There was none of that. This was a solid fight.
Awesome. And so here, let's go to the next one because these are names that this is a name that we haven't seen in a hot minute. And that is Santiago Ponzinibbio. Santiago Ponzinibbio defeated Miguel Baeza via unanimous decision, 29-28. People were a little upset about this one.
They were, and I'm like, and even I was like, wait a minute, are you sure about that? You know, but in the end, if you look at the stats, after the first round, Ponzinibbio just like really started off punching on this guy. Okay, he really started teeing off. And the reason why we hadn't seen Santiago in so long is that he's been out. He's been convalescing. They told him he wouldn't be able to fight ever again. And he wasn't about to have that. So he started slowly working himself back up into fighting shape. So I'm glad to see him back. I just don't want to see him hurt or anything like that.
Well, you know, and the challenge is that, you know, he was positioned right there at the bottom of the top 10. And so a lot of these fighters who are trying to get into the top 10, you know, it's really hard if you're at number 11 or 12 to get a fight versus a 7 or a 6. So, you know, it was really hard because you can't get a 7 or a 6. Ponzinibbio at like 9 or 10 was out. So you really only have like a 8 that you can fight to try to crack that top 10. And that was just super hard for people. So I'm glad to see that Santiago Ponzinibbio is back, because now that means we get some more of those fights between those looking from the outside looking in and some of our top 10 fighters that are on the bottom half of that 10.
Yeah, that really shouldn't be a problem because I'm sorry, if you're in the lower of the top 10, you better be prepared to take some 11 to 15s seriously.
100%. You know, and that goes back to, you know, way back in the day, and I'm gonna say it was 2018. I'm going to look for it now. But it's we talked about the challenge and win ladder. You remember this?
We did.
You remember this?
Yes,
I'm gonna throw it up on the screen real quick. This was the challenge and win ladder, and so this was really talking about how we should run if we want the ladder to make sense in the UFC. Challenge and win was exactly how I thought we should do it. And so for those of you out there who are interested, hit our website, combatsportstalk.com. Check out the article on Challenge and Win and see what you think about whether or not this would work at rejuvenizing the ladder as it stands today.
Yeah, because right now Bellator's ladder is not only doesn't make sense, but they're sticking by it. And UFC really needs to take a look at see what they're doing.
All right. Next fight of the night, Roman Dolidze defeated Moreno Staropoli via unanimous decision. That was 30-27 on all three cards.
Yeah, it was, and rightfully so.
All right, next fight, the co-main event, Marcin Tybura defeated Walt Harris via TKO at 4:06 in round 1. What is up with Walt Harris, man? Like, does he still have it? I mean, we know the challenge that he has been through. I mean, this was the kidnapping and murder of his daughter. And he had to deal with that, had to overcome that, came in there and fought against Alistair Overeem, had Alistair Overeem all but finished, but the judge didn't stop the fight. Basically, Harris gasses out and then gets finished by Alistair Overeem. I believe this is the next fight after that happened, and now Walt Harris is finished again via TKO. Do we think that this is dangerous territory for Harris? Could he be one of the 60?
Absolutely not. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, on the back end, with Walt Harris, he had stated that he doesn't want to live in Alabama anymore because, you know, of all the stuff that's happened to him with his daughter and everything like that. He's actually been training at Extreme Couture, if I remember correctly, in Las Vegas, and he's looking to make a permanent move back there. I think that would be the best thing for him. Get himself out of that situation, get his mind right, because I think as long as he's in Alabama, he's going to have a problem. Secondly, second camp, you know, first camp and first training camp at a new location. I don't expect him to be 110%. I do applaud the fact that he did go in there. And if you actually look at the fight, he had Tybura. He actually had him, and I don't know if he backed up a little bit, because I think in the back of his mind he was thinking about what happened with Alistair Overeem, that he actually went in there and was waylaying him and was going to, and you know, for that to happen again where the ref wouldn't stop, and then, you know, for him to come around and then get knocked out. It happened on a faster level this time. Okay, he actually went in there and he had him, and he just hesitated. And I was like, you know, I almost started yelling at the screen, like, go in and finish him. But it was something that Bisping said. He doesn't want to have that. In the back of his mind, he could be thinking he doesn't want to have a repeat of that again. And I think that's what happened.
All right. And the main event of the evening, Jairzinho Rozenstruik defeated Augusta Sakai via knockout at 4:59 in round 1. Do you call it a knockout? I think it was more of a TKO. It might have actually been stopped too fast.
You know, one could argue that, but I will say this. I knew this was going to happen in the first round. Me and my girlfriend were getting ready to watch The Conjuring, which, you know, foolish of us to watch The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, at night. Okay, that's because, you know, I have an active imagination, and Conjuring always messes with me. So I'm sitting there, and she's like, "Are we going to watch the movie?" I'm like, "Yeah, trust me, it's only going to last a one round. Trust me." And sure enough, right at the end, he takes him down. Was it stopped early? You know, we can argue that all day long. But
here's why I thought it was stopped early. You know, and you know, my rule is I'd rather it be stopped early than it to go too long.
Right.
It was such a weird punch that he landed. I mean, it kind of landed it behind the ear, you know, not behind the head, but just right above the ear and to the back.
It's like right about there, there.
So he lands that punch, and Augusta Sakai goes down, and it looked like Sakai was still able to fight right until that hammer fist came down. And that was a hammer fist from hell. Like, when he
that
hit
was
him,
Thor's hammer.
yeah, it was Thor's hammer right on the temple. And when he landed it, I saw Augusta Sakai go out. The next punch wakes him up, and then it looked like he was getting ready to start tying up Jarzinho Rozenstruik, and then Herb Dean waves it off. So he does go out for a second, but he was only out for a second. So it's like, man, with 1 second left in the round, maybe he could have come back, gotten his marbles, but not so.
And Herb, we trust, man. Okay, the Predator knew. We knew. Okay, we knew.
But come on now for a second. You're saying that the guy who has let people sit there and get drug from pillar to post, bloodied, broken, and all but eviscerated, Herb Dean, couldn't let this fight go one more second. Like, really? Like, what's up, Herb? You couldn't let it go one more second?
So let's understand. All right, we know Rozenstruik. Okay, we know Rozenstruik's pedigree. He destroys people. He destroyed lips and everything. Wasn't Rozenstruik that ripped?
Yeah, Rozenstruik ripped Alistair Overeem's lip. Yeah.
So apparently he has appeased the Predator. He has satisfied the Predators with this sense of violence. Okay, so with that said, he took a punch to right here right here in this area, which is pretty much your reset button. Okay, one of the many reset buttons back there. Then to follow up with Mew Mew to the temple. I mean, what more? I think this violence factor was, and Predator was like, you know what? I think I've seen enough.
Yeah,
and
and
Herb that
Dean's
was
like,
it.
violence factor, alpha gamma. This fight is over.
He's like, I am satiated. We are good here. Okay.
All right. Then in that case, so am I. Let's go ahead and close the book on this one and put this one on the shelf because this card is history. Let's go into the topics and the headlines that are making waves in the MMA and combat sports world. This is Finding the Angles. All right, this is Finding the Angles, and we've got one thing to talk about. It is the headliner of our show. That is tonight's fight, Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. This is an exhibition that no one wants to see, but everybody's talking about.
Yeah, nobody likes to see car wrecks either, but we're going to watch it.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where, and we got some really interesting topics to talk about from this, but let's go into it. You got 50-0, arguably one of the heads in boxing's Mount Rushmore, Floyd Mayweather Jr., multiple time champion, innovator of owning his own promotional company and promoting himself. That is something that, when we start talking about whether a fighter becomes the GOAT, they have to do something that changes the game for the sport outside of just winning boxing matches or winning fights. And I think it's underrated that we look at what he's done with TMT, the money team, and turning his own production company and his own management and managing himself as a fighter. That is something that has transformed the paychecks that he makes for a fight versus what other fighters make. I mean, Canelo fought, just recently, and what was the number? Like $30 million. Well, Floyd Mayweather can make upwards to $100 million for his fight, not just the purse, but when you include all of the revenues that he gets from pay-per-views, he gets a bigger portion of that because he is the production company. He is the management company. So, so that is something that makes him different and special about this, about boxing. Now he's coming in here having retired from active professional boxing. He's been taking on some of these exhibition or some of these. Another word for exhibition is
sparring matches. Exhibitions are good.
Exhibition.
Yeah. You could use that. Yeah, but why is it that I don't feel good about this? And I say this. had this been with anybody else, I think I might have been okay with it. But we're talking about the Paul brothers here,
Well,
and yeah,
yeah.
and I'll be honest about it. I mean, I do not follow the YouTubers and the TikTokers because I say they do everything for attention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I don't know if it's a lack of attention when they were growing up, or it's the I'm Mr. Meeseeks, look at me type syndrome. Rick and Morty, and I feel that for one of the greatest fighters to do it, to lower his standards, to come in there and spar just for the money, does that cheapen the sport to me? Because I don't see anything good coming out of this. There is nothing good. I see a payday coming out of it, which is always great in our economy. But as far as that goes, I don't see anything good. I don't see anything that will improve Floyd Mayweather, except for that he gets to say I made more money. I don't see anything. I really don't see anything good coming out of Paul for going in there and getting beat by Mayweather, other than I went in there with Floyd Mayweather and he kicked my butt. That's all. I mean, that's what we're going to see because much like Canelo. Okay, Canelo said it best, and I will never forget this. He said, wherever I tried to punch him at, he was never there." Okay, if Canelo,
yeah, but
one of the master
Floyd is
fighters,
getting old. Like, when did Canelo fight Floyd, and how old is Floyd now? Like, that's the thing.
I think he was number 48, 47 or number 48 out of that fight. Okay, let me see. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Canelo, arguably one of the best out there, sits there and says, "I punched where he was, and he was not there." What do you think our Paul brothers got for him?
Okay,
honestly,
we were talking like this when Jake Paul fought Ben Askren, and it was like, but really, what can a Paul brother do?
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Here's a few things that I think it's important for us to keep in mind. Logan Paul is a head taller and coming in weighing about 35 pounds more than Floyd Mayweather. So I think it's an 8-round bout. He's only got to land one. I know it's hard to land one. It's kind of the opposite of fighting Deontay Wilder. Like, you only got to get hit by one. Like, Logan Paul has to land one, but if he lands one, it could be the end of the night for Floyd Mayweather, and it begins to start asking that question about what his legacy is going to end up being.
Okay, well, number one, Canelo was number 45. All right, let's put it. He was the 45th fight for Floyd Mayweather. That was back in 2013. Number two, you're right.
8 years.
Okay,
8 years.
8 years. And do you honestly think Floyd has not been trained? You think he's just been sitting around getting fat?
No.
Do you honestly think that? I think he's still got it. Yeah, I think he's still been going for it. I think he's still been going hard in the ring. And when it comes to training camp, he just amps it up. So with that said, you're right. Paul comes in a foot taller. He's stronger. You could put all that on him. And you said it right. He one hit and that's it. But once again, he's got the swing and hit Mayweather. Once again, I punched there, and I punched where Mayweather was, and he was not there by the time my fist got there. Remember those words, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be re-echoed tonight, okay, that I punched where Mayweather was, and he was not there by the time my fist got there.
I think he's made hubris.
I think it's hubris, but when it's hubris if the fighter says it, it's not hubris, it's skill when your opponent says that. Okay, when your opponent sits there and says he's just that good, that's not hubris anymore. That's actual skill. Okay, when Chael I'm gonna evoke John Jones' name. When Chael sat there and said he is stronger than most people believe, he is much stronger than that. I believe that. That is what I'll believe. I will not believe when when fighters sit there and hype themselves up. I don't believe that. I believe what their opponents tell them. Okay, if the opponent sits there and says, "Oh my God, this guy can punch," I'm gonna take their word for it, because guess what? They took that punch,
right?
and they remembered it. Okay, that's the they remembered that punch. That's the point I'm making, and I think Floyd Mayweather's gonna go in there and he's gonna slip and roll and juke and jive, and Paul's gonna have a hard time trying to hit this man.
So the one thing that I really need you to think about is you're taking a quote from 8 years ago. That's a long time. Like I don't know that you can that Floyd Mayweather is the same person.
Okay,
So
let's talk about that. How many punches did Conor McGregor get on Floyd Mayweather?
Conor got quite a few in the early part of the fight, but at the same time, Conor isn't Conor wasn't
Jake Paul. He fought him in 2017.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I guess the thing that I'm saying here is that Conor McGregor is still an MMA fighter, and being able to work those boxing angles and manage distance the way a boxer does, we saw was really one of the fatal flaws that that Conor McGregor had. When we also analyze the way Conor trained, and this is what Conor himself said, is that we trained for a fighter who was going to be elusive, who was going to, really focus on defense, and what we were going to do was go forward and try to push the pressure. What we got was Floyd Mayweather, max defense stepping forward, and we didn't train for that. And so that was one of the reasons why a lot of what Conor McGregor wanted to do was nullified, because he trained for a Floyd that we've seen in those first 50 fights. What we didn't but he didn't get that type of fighter. The other thing is that the weight that Conor McGregor came in at versus Floyd was a lot closer. He also fought Floyd Mayweather also did an exhibition against Tenshin Nasukawa. Remember that
Right.
was 2 years ago or something like that, and that was like a Christmas New Year's Eve kind of thing. And what we got was Floyd was way bigger than that kid, and so he put him out. The challenge that we're going to run into is Jake Paul's size. Logan Paul's size. Logan Paul's training exclusively boxing. This may not be the cakewalk. We all expect Floyd Mayweather to win, but this may not be the cakewalk that it should be, given Floyd's experience versus Logan Paul's.
I think it would. I'm not going to say it's going to be a total manhandling by Floyd Mayweather. I'm just going to say that I don't think Mayweather's face is going to be changed that much after the fight.
Okay.
I'll say that. But we're going to find out, because we're going to talk trash to each other one way or the other. All right. Because I'm interested to see how it's going to go. You're interested. Everybody's interested to see this car wreck.
Yeah. Now, here's a couple of things. One of the things that's interesting is that Floyd Mayweather estimates that he's made about $30 million just on the lead up to the fight. So think about that for a moment. We're not even talking about what his purse is going to be, but he thinks that he's made about $30 million just in all the promotions around the fight. So this is clearly a money play, and I don't think that Floyd is really too concerned about what actually happens in the ring, which then brings me to that other question that is the age-old question when it comes to boxing, and that is this a setup? Is this rigged?
Could possibly be. It could. Well, see, that's the thing. See, that's one of the reasons why that Floyd Mayweather really isn't that stressed about the situation, because it's never going to pat his record. Okay, it's never going to touch the whatever happens, win, lose, or draw. It will not affect his record. He will still be 50-0 because of all the. It's not sanctioned. It's not like a truly sanctioned fight. He's not going in there putting his record on the line. So literally, Logan Paul, he could run right into Logan Paul's chest, fall flat out, and that's it. And he still gets paid. He could get the finger poke of doom and still get paid.
And I know what the finger poke of doom is, by the way. I know what that is.
You make me proud. Okay. So, I mean, it's literally, he don't care. But my question is, and as I was reading this, you're a marketing guy. How in the world did he make $30 million in lead up?
I think it has a lot to do with, ad revenues and just the number of views that a lot of these things are, the number of views that you get whenever you put Floyd on screen or put Logan Paul. Like, a lot of those promotional type things are going to have some revenues associated with it. And, the fact is, because Floyd Mayweather is the money team and he has his own agent, he is his own agent and his own promotional company, that all of those dollars, or many of those dollars, are going to flow towards him. So maybe it's not 30 million, but let's cut it in half, 15 million.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible that ad revenue and people sponsoring, the face-offs and all of those types of things, the money that's coming in from those sponsors, that he could have easily made that. And and that's one of the other things is that that's why he's doing it, is that because at the end of the day, you're right, it doesn't impact his record. It may impact his legacy, because I think he's underestimating what Logan Paul and his brother Jake Paul can do on YouTube. If Logan Paul walks out of there and having beaten one of the best to ever do it,
it will destroy boxing. It'll be such a major blow to boxing for that, and for all the wrong reasons. All the wrong reasons.
But think about the line that lines up to fight Logan Paul after that.
Think about that. He'll be a marked man.
Everybody will want to fight him.
Yeah. So let's look at that. All right. If we got a few minutes, because that's what I was saying about. I was thinking about this before our show. Is Jake Paul and Logan Paul. Let's look at what they're doing. I understand why boxers are not really mad at Jake Paul, because he's doing to MMA fighters what MMA fighters were doing to boxers back in the day. That boxers would say, "Oh man, I can get into the octagon and I can beat this person, I can beat that person," and they would go. And I'm thinking of James Toney as being the first one. He went in there and pretty much got canceled in the ring by Randy Couture.
Yeah,
okay? Which was
he underestimated.
I truly believe, and that's the thing though. So boxers has always been mad at MMA fighters, because they believe that they believe that MMA fighters think that they're better than them, and to MMA fighters' hubris, we kind of do. They kind of do think like that to a degree. Very few, but I can think of a couple, three that think that they can outbeat a boxer in the octagon.
But that's the thing, that becomes the age-old conversation, right? Like every time we've seen a boxer beat an MMA fighter, it's been in a squared circle. It hasn't been in a geometric shape of greater than 4 sides.
Hold on, I'm thinking.
That would be a hexagon, an octagon.
Well, you forget pride is done in the ring.
Yes, but when did a boxer go into a pride ring? And that would be pre James Toney.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm going back. It takes a second. The memory banks are deep.
Yeah. By the way, I need you to turn me down on your headphones. I'm picking up an echo.
Are you okay? It's my bad. Here, hold on.
All right. So one of the things is that it's going to be one of those things where, after people saw what Randy Couture did to James Toney, you haven't seen another boxer enter an octagon or other type of MMA ring since. And I'm not counting Holly Holm, because Holly Holm was also a kickboxer. And
Right.
so she already had some skill. So now you've got Clarissa. It's Clarissa Shields, right?
Yes, Clarissa Shields.
Clarissa Shields is the first boxer to actually enter the MMA cage since James Toney. So don't say to me as a boxer, and I'm sorry, I'm an MMA guy, so I'm getting my feathers ruffled here. Don't say to me as a boxer that you guys are better than MMA fighters when you won't step into the octagon. You won't go with the 8 limbs, right? You won't wrestle, you won't do the jiu-jitsu, because you know that when you start to intertwine all of these combat martial arts, boxing wasn't built to defend against that.
Hey, they proved that back in UFC 1 with Art Jimerson. Okay, that boxing does not belong in the octagon. All right, let's put it out there. Kimbo Slice said it best. Comparing, boxing to MMA it's like trying to compare middle school to college. All right, it just you can't, because they're so. And I don't mean that as a diss.
It shouldn't
be
seen as a diss, because the thing is that MMA fighters haven't also shown great success in the squared circle. Like when you put someone in a ring and they only have their hands, the sweet science goes to work, and we've shown that MMA fighters don't understand boxing angles. They don't understand the footwork. They don't know how to position themselves to not take damage. And so that's why it's one of those things where, when you see the success of a Jake Paul and a Logan Paul, I don't think that they're doing anything super spectacular. They're just fighting people who don't understand boxing.
Right. And in a sense, they're fighting amateurs. Okay, they're fighting amateurs, because with MMA we have the way that we set up our striking angles, the way that, because we also have to defend against everything. Well, not only against a strike, but also a takedown. So we're not going to have that same positioning as a boxer would. The punches from MMA are different than from the punches from boxing. We've seen that, because punching starts at the hips. It does not start at the shoulders. Okay, right. That there's just so many different things that go into it. Once again, this is MMA is a more advanced art than boxing. However, boxing is so focused, so intense on the strikes that when they do go into the ring, they have no knowledge of a takedown. They have no knowledge of that. They can't visually see when a person's getting ready to take down. They can't understand the nuances of a question mark kick. Right. They can't understand those feints like that. They can understand feints if he's getting ready to throw a punch. You could definitely see that. But just likewise, most MMA fighters, when they're striking and everything, their heads are not on a pivot. They're not on a swivel. They don't know how to do any type of head movement. They just go straight in. Very few MMA fighters that are complete MMA fighters. That means they understand, striking and grappling. They don't do that. They don't understand those things. Whereas a boxer, I see where a boxer comes in is like, hey, I can go in there and knock that dude out. He doesn't know how to no head movement to that guy. I would be lighting him up all day. So it's
So I would say that when you start, I would correct the late great Kimbo Slice instead of saying that boxing is middle school and MMA is like college. I would say that boxing is like a play in a theater, and MMA is like a movie. Because there are certain things, you're going to have actors, you're going to have a lot of the same things, but now you've got to create this world in a play. You got to create that in a confined area. There are boundaries that you have to work through, that you can't add CGI. You can't go on location to 5 different countries around the world to tell the story. No, you've got to tell the story on a stage with props, with people, with basic lighting and makeup and a symphony if you're lucky. but I can have people in completely different countries, hundreds, maybe thousands of people working on a movie to tell a story and an immersive story. That is the difference between a play and a movie. They each are technically challenging to pull off in their own rights, but they are very different when it comes to what they are. Both of them are art, both of them are entertainment, but they are super different in the technical challenges that you have to overcome. And there are more. There are more when it comes to making a movie or fighting in MMA. Let's go on. We've invested a lot of time in this. We'll end the show. We're gonna do some fight picks. We'll go ahead and pick Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul at the end of our show.
Absolutely.
So you can't talk about Logan Paul without talking about Jake Paul. Now, Jake Paul most recently had a fight against Ben Askren, where he finished Ben Askren, humiliated, I'll say, Ben Askren in the first round. And
was it really a humiliation though? Because I mean, let's put it out there. Ben Askren, and I stand corrected. Ben Askren, his entire MMA career has been wrestling. He has the American Wrestling Academy as a sister core to the American Kickboxing Academy. He that's what he did. He wrestled people to death. All right, and they put him in. They strapped gloves on him, and then they threw him in the ring.
And he got humiliated. I mean, because the thing is that he was saying that he was going to win this fight. It wasn't one of those things where he was like, yeah, it's going to be a close fight. It's going to be a hard fight. No, he was promising that he was going to teach Jake Paul a lesson. And then he got dispatched in like the first 2 minutes. He was done. And he was laying on the ground like Apollo Creed in Rocky IV. Like, what you going to do?
Exactly. So
but now one of the things that we saw was a fighter, the chosen one, Tyron Woodley, really go into Jake Paul's dressing room and have a confrontation.
Well, see, that's the thing. Everybody said he went in there to have a confrontation.
He didn't go in there for a confrontation, but a confrontation he did find.
He did find one. Yes, he did. And he went in there just to make sure that to observe the gloves his fists being wrapped and the glove being put on. That's all he did. It was his boys that were sitting there and try to goad at Tyron. Okay. And for what it's worth, here we are. We now have a fight going on. I really wish it would have been with the dude that was talking the trash, but it is what it is. And I think this was kind of I won't say a sucker move, but when I saw the announcement, I heard Admiral Akbar in the back of my head screaming, "It's a trap!" Okay,
it's a trap.
Exactly.
You know what? We're gonna get that drop. We need to get that.
Because apparently that's gonna keep on happening as long as Jake Paul is around.
So let's go ahead and make that announcement too. Jake Paul is signed to fight Tyron Woodley in, I believe it's an 8-round fight this August. So August 28th. It's going to be an 8-round fight, 3 rounds, 3 minutes apiece. Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul. And Tyron Woodley is a wrestler, but his striking is way better than that of Ben Askren. He has been known to knock a fool out. So it's one of those things where it's like, is Tyron Woodley going to come out there and actually box a Jake Paul, or is it going to be another one of those things where Tyron Woodley talks a big game but actually doesn't deliver on his promise to put somebody out? The one that I'm really kind of thinking about here is a song that maybe Tyron Woodley actually put out there.
Kobe really?
Ain't gonna do nothing. Ain't gonna do nothing.
Yeah. So
man.
Tyron Woodley,
did you watch the Face Off? Did you watch the Face Off?
I didn't even watch the Face Off.
That actually came up. That he started singing it, and the whole crowd was behind him. Here's the problem I have with that. Tyron will separate you from your soul from your body for a few seconds. He has that ability. He has that knockout power. However, he also has this one thing. He's a counter puncher. He is the type that he will sit back. He's a slow man when it comes to to getting out the gate first. Everybody's seen his weakness. Just pressure him. What does Jake Paul do? He pressures people. Okay, he pressures them. I don't know if this is going to be a good one for Tyron. I'm going in hoping that Tyron does put him down. But at the same time, the realistic side of me says that Jake Paul is gonna get another one, okay? And his ego gets that much bigger. Boxers laugh at MMA that much harder.
Yeah, and so once again, this is Jake Paul's words. Tyron has no idea what he's getting himself into. He's playing catch up, and I am way better skilled, and I have way better cardio. I'm faster, stronger, heavier, taller, and I have a longer reach. Everything is in my favor. I am tired of saying that Jake Paul is delusional because he keeps coming up roses. So I'm not gonna pick Jake Paul, at least not right now. I just am not willing to go and say Jake Paul ain't a professional fighter. Jake Paul ain't a boxer. He is. He's all of those things. And he also happens to be lightly. Go ahead. You can't take him lightly.
And he's also a guy. He's also a guy that, just happens to be a YouTuber on top of that.
Yeah.
Zab Judah told us that this kid has hands. So, and I didn't want to believe Zab Judah. That's my fault. But he told us this kid had hands. So not only do we have a Jake Paul, a YouTuber, but now we found the YouTuber that actually has found his skill. And his skill just happens to be an alpha male skill.
There you have it. Now, Colby Covington decided to weigh in on that, and he thinks Tyron Woodley needs money and is going to take a dive against Jake Paul. Yeah.
I don't want to agree with Colby Covington. I never agree with him, but I'm not going to say he's wrong.
I hope it's not. I hope it's not one of those things where but just because of the fact, and I think that this Logan Paul fight tonight with Floyd Mayweather is going to show us really kind of what the nature of these fights are going to be. Because the first fight with Jake Paul when he fought Nate Robinson, he basically killed Nate Robinson for about 2 minutes.
But Nate Robinson was a basketball player. He's a basketball player, right?
So then
this isn't King of Fighters 94.
Fair enough. So then it was like, okay, well, Ben Askren's going to do it. Ben Askren ends up, face down. And so it's like, well, he was a wrestler. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our excuses together for Tyron Woodley. What is it going to be? Is it that he's old? Is it that he's a counterpuncher? Is it that he's also a wrestler? What is it? Because if Jake Paul gets this done, if he dispatches Tyron Woodley, now we got a problem.
Yeah, it's called MMA fighters should not get in the boxing ring. That's what the problem is. Until one of these cats get into it, are willing to oblige, make it a 2-part fight. One part of the fighter goes into the boxing ring. The other part of the fight, make it a 3-parter. I'm sorry, I just now thought about it. Make it a 3-parter. They each fight in a prospective ring. One in a boxing ring, the other one in the octagon. And the loser decides where they fight for the third and final match. Do that, and tell me who's what. Tell me what's what.
It's gonna be 2 boxing matches and 1 MMA fight. So you better do your damage in the MMA fight.
Unless you beat him into nothingness, in MMA, you just wear him out. Okay.
So let's keep our eyes on August 28th. Go ahead and circle that date on your calendar because that is when we're going to see if UFC and Tyron Woodley can redeem the MMA fighter in the boxing ring. Because at the end of the day, it's a lose-lose. It was a lose-lose for Ben Askren. It's a lose-lose for Tyron Woodley. And it's a lose-lose, in my opinion, for Floyd Mayweather. Because if they win, it's going to be, oh, you just fought a YouTuber.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that they always have is, oh, well, I'm just a YouTuber. Hey, you know what? My record is, 2-0 for Jake Paul. For Logan Paul, my record is 0-1.
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, look, you are officially considered a professional fighter now. You can't sit there and say, I'm just a YouTuber. No, you're not anymore. Because now you've had 2 professional fights. The first 2, you should have made those worth it, because now you're in it. Okay, and now that you're a professional fighter, you're gonna start. Hey, I really wish a real boxer would come to him and say, okay, you think you can knock out these dudes? Come knock me out. They're not going to do it because
take that fight. Yeah.
No, because Paul is doing them a favor by knocking out all these UFC fighters. Because like I said, they're slowly but surely sitting there saying, ha ha ha, you guys can't even beat a YouTuber.
But let's look at, and this is the thing that I go back to, and then we'll go on, because this is we're
kind of circling each other.
Yeah. But this is the thing that we're not talking about. In every case, I have to go back and look at Nate Robinson, but in the Ben Askren fight, in the Tyron Woodley fight, and even in the fight with Floyd Mayweather, the Paul brothers are bigger and heavier and younger. They're not fighting people that would be in their natural weight class. You're not fighting, like, think about who Logan Paul or Jake Paul would actually be fighting if they walk in there at 185 pounds or 170 pounds. You're not fighting a Floyd Mayweather at that point. Floyd Mayweather was fighting at, what, 148? 143?
150.
Yeah, okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Floyd Mayweather was fighting at. Tyron Woodley at 170 when Jake Paul may end up walking in there at 205. And let's just remember, too, these are exhibitions. So who knows if any of these Paul brothers are on ePro or something like that? We don't even know. So it's like,
so that means we need to bring in Anderson Silva and John Jones. Is that what you're saying?
It's normal.
Right. It's normal.
So yeah, it's normal. It's normal. So I just see the Paul brothers as one of those things that is to your point, Admiral Akbar, it's a trap, because at the end of the day, this is kind of the Wild West of exhibition boxing. And because of that, you're seeing fighters who are not meant to fight each other at weights that are not meant to be in the ring together at the same time, and with rules that heavily slate one fighter over the other, with the oversight and the ability to track performance enhancing materials at a minimum. So it's like we shouldn't be participating in this as an MMA from an MMA perspective. We shouldn't.
I know.
Anyway, speaking of MMA perspectives, finally, after 2 weeks, Diego Sanchez finally responded. So we know that we did a couple of shows about Diego Sanchez. We saw the horror that was the Joshua Fabia training and all of the things that Joshua Fabia did. And so the MMA world was in outrage. They spoke out. Finally, Diego Sanchez announced that he was going to leave Joshua Fabia. And then Joshua Fabia came out there and just aired all kinds of Diego Sanchez dirty laundry. And so we were waiting for Diego Sanchez to respond. And I think he took the classy way out and just said, listen, I'm a Christian. I'm a religious person. I am not going to sink and get into this with Joshua Fabia. What he said was, thank you for all your continued love and support through this very challenging time in my life. I appreciate all the defense that arose for me on behalf of my career, myself, and all those who were involved. Thank you for those who have been sensitive to this situation. I apologize to all of those who are affected negatively. I will refrain from provoking this situation any longer. I refuse to fire back on accusations that in the intent were made to provoke me and those close to me. Once again, my faith has taught me to love thy neighbor and love thy enemy. I wish for peace to surface moving forward. So I think that that's a great way to just not respond to all the things that Joshua Fabia was saying and just say, listen, I'm done with him. I'm moving on with my life, and peace and love and goodness to everybody.
Fair enough. If that's the route he wants to take, I have no problem with that. Because in the grand scheme of things, the issues that he has is between him and Fabian and his family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we that's why I've said that it was a very it was poor form on the part of Fabian to air out his laundry like that.
Mm-hmm.
And for a person like Sanchez to take the high road, I applaud that, because I don't think I could be the same way. I'll say it like that. I don't think I could be, I'm not saying that I would show up in his parking lot or anything like that and be waiting on him to come out. I'm just saying that I just couldn't take the high road. If you go low, I'm going into the mud with you. Okay, we're both. I'm dirty like that. It's very rare that I can. That you can't put. You can put your dirt out on me. That's fine, because that's me. But when you put my family into it, when you start talking about my family, my kids, yeah, about that. You saw the movie Taken. You saw how it went down.
I actually have not seen the movie Taken, but I
get off this podcast. I'll finish it up, man. Really? Really? You've never seen Taken?
No, I mean, I know the phrase. I have a very certain set of skills, and I will find you, and I know the quote, but I've never actually seen the movie. Like, you've seen way more movies than I have. It's just true.
Apparently, Combat Sports Talk World, find him and shame him. Okay, find Ryan Smith on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and shame him. Okay.
All right. So here we go. These are the drops that we need to add. We need to add the Admiral Akbar.
Yes.
It's a trap. We also need to add the Game of Thrones bell ringing and the shouting of shame.
Yes.
Shame.
All right. And I will find that. I'll find those for you later. And, we'll post them up.
So, speaking of family, there is El Cucuito.
No, it's El Hijo de Cucuy. It's El Hijo de El Cucuy.
Yeah, your Spanish is great. Awesome.
It's passing. Okay, I guarantee there's somebody out there that speaks, that was born speaking Spanish, and they're like, "Oh my God, kill this man!" Okay, kill this man right now.
I like little El Cucuy though.
Yeah.
So
but it doesn't
El
make
Cucuito. You
No,
add ito to the end of it, and it becomes little. Like, you're like, oh,
but
little El Cucuy.
And you're saying El Cucuy wrong anyway. Anybody who knows the legend of El Cucuy, it's more like El Cucuy. It's like that. It's supposed to be dominating and bearing. It's not cute.
No,
okay?
no. I think it should be more like El Cucuy.
That'll work too. Okay, but you can't make it cute. Okay, you shouldn't. We as a society need to quit making dangerous things cute. Panda bears are not cute. Okay, quit watching Kung Fu Panda. Bambi. Have you ever? Hey, don't leave them deers alone. Okay, leave them alone. Thumper. Did you ever? Hey, you ever see Monty Python and the Holy and the Snar? Dumb.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
They're all
because I was getting ready to. What's funny? Your comedic timing is very good, because I was like, yes, a panda bear really is a dangerous animal, and yes, a deer, it's got the antlers and it can kick. It could be a dangerous animal if it was provoked. And then you're like, you have Thumper, and I'm like, okay, Thumper. And then you're like, Monty Python. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot. There is the one ravenous, rabbit with the sharp pointy teeth.
And it knocks the guy's head right off.
Very good. Very good. I welcome it.
Right.
So, but shout out to El Cucuy for having
man.
Angel Anthony Ferguson. So
that just tells me he's gonna be fighting. He's gonna be fighting all his life for the first name like Angel. Okay, name him Soft. Okay, if you want him to be a fighter, name him Soft. So
it was May 31st at 1:25 p.m. 7 almost 8 pounds. It's 7.79 pounds. 19 inches long. I love the fact that
that's a long ass child. Oh, God.
So yeah. Shout out to El Kukui.
Yeah.
Speaking of shout outs, there was somebody who was shouting out, and that was Kamaru Usman. The Nigerian Nightmare decided to follow Dustin Poirier into the Hot One studio to take the 10 hot wings of death. Have you seen this video?
I have not seen this one. No, I have not. But, I'm like.
I shared it with you, man. I shared it with you.
I know you shared it with me. I've been busy, man.
All right. So here it is. I'm for those of you out there listening, you gotta see Kamaru Usman on Hot Ones, because Kamaru Usman tries to be this suave, debonair kind of guy who just kind of, he has all the answers and he's just smooth and all this confidence. You get through wings number 1, because number 1 is barely hot. And you start climbing that ladder, that Scoville ladder, right? By the time we get to, because he's also at the first wing, he's like, I'm Nigerian, and we like a little spice in our food anyway, blah, 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 blah. By the time he got to wing number 7, wing number 8, dude was like, okay, y'all tricked me. What is happening here? Like, by the time it was all over, he was sweating, his nose was running. Like, it was like he was even starting to drop F-bombs by the time he got to the end. Like, it was like, first he was that Nigerian Nightmare. He was that guy that we see in the press conferences talking smack and things like that. But it was a really good, fun interview. I enjoyed it. I laughed no fewer than 3 separate times, laughed out loud. So I would absolutely encourage everyone, go and watch the Kamaru Usman one. Also, if you're there, while you're there, check out the Dustin Poirier one. Dustin took it like a champ, dude. Like, he didn't.
Oh yeah, he's from Louisiana. They they eat fire.
He was just like, ooh, that was hot, kind of thing.
Yeah. But Kamar, every person I've ever known that's came from the motherland, I've known them for eating hot foods, like seriously hot food. Like, I learned, how to eat hot food from a dude from Nigeria. Okay, and he,
not Kelechi. Kelechi's not technically
Kelechi.
From Nigeria, but he is of
does
Nigerian
Kelechi eat hot food?
Heritage. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I was going to say, but yeah. So when you're telling me that, and I got to watch this now, because I mean, it's hilarious. It will be hilarious to see this.
Just though, for full disclosure, I am not debating or any otherwise taking away the Nigerian heritage that is Kelechi Casey Onyebuchi. What I'm saying is, he was born in the United States. He wasn't raised in Nigeria. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that he's not Nigerian. Dude is Nigerian, speaks Igbo, like he is all the way Nigerian. But at the same time, Kamaru Usman was born in Nigeria, was raised in Nigeria, and then moved to the United States at a young age. So, so in that regard, that is the distinction that I'm making. I don't, because I just know that Kelechi's going to list. Actually, I know that someone's going to tell Kelechi that I said this, and he's going to come at me like, this is your cultural awareness moment. And I'm going to be like, no, dude, I got you. You are 100% red, green, white, green. I got you. But you just were born in Texas. That's all I'm saying. Someone who wasn't born in Texas was Paulo Costa.
Oh.
He was born. He was born in Brazil. Now, he was supposed to fight Jarrett Kinnear August 21st. They were headlining the card, and all of a sudden he withdraws, and we get Kelvin Gastelum stepping in there to fight Jarrett Kinnear.
Interesting.
So,
what's going on, Paulo?
So everyone thought that Paulo may have gotten injured in camp or something like that, but no. What happened is that Paulo was unhappy with the pay. And this is one of the things that I think is going to be the biggest impact of fighters going over and fighting Logan Paul and Jake Paul and all of these things, is that fighter pay now has become center stage. And as these fighters are doing these exhibitions, win or lose, they're making these bigger paydays than they have in a year at the UFC in one fight. And so it's like, now you've got these people who are at the top of their division, who are, perennial title contenders. They're like, wait, I could go and fight some random person in a boxing ring and make good money. I'm one of your stars. You should pay me well. And so this is what Paulo Costa was saying. He said he never even signed the contract to fight Jared Cannonier. So he's even confused as to how that fight even got announced.
But are we going to believe Paulo?
I think that he signed the contract, because it would. Why would the UFC announce a fight that wasn't signed? But at the same time, it's one of those things where, how did the UFC allow this fighter to pull out and not have like substantial penalties? Like, he's not injured.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to come back. It's going to come back to him. I think they didn't know, and then it was like, wait a minute, because Brett Okamoto, he's got him and Ariel Helwani. They got these interrogation techniques that seem to get everything out of everybody. So I'm sure the backstory's coming.
All right, so we'll see. Kelvin Gastelum versus Jarrett Kinnear is still going to be a good fight, though.
Oh, it's going to be good. I mean, and props to Gastelum.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to watching that fight either. I'm not a big Paulo Costa fan anyway, but at the same time, pulling out because of fighter pay, because you want to be paid more than what you contractually signed to fight for. Like, the amount of money that you are going to make for fighting this fight is in the details of the contract. Like,
literally,
you negotiate.
That's literally why we're
before you sign. Like,
yeah, so you can't be mad if you went in. See, it could be that when he saw how much Tyron was making, he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, no," and then he's like, "I can go over there and box and make more money." So let's see what happens after tonight. If we see another call up to match. We're gonna see where Paulo Costa's real. He may be the first one to challenge Jake Paul, and see, and it's like, hey, you want to fight a real 185er? Here I am.
Yeah, I just don't see Jake Paul taking that fight, though. Well, no,
I know Jake Paul ain't gonna take that
and let me
fight.
tell you why. Let me tell you why he won't. Because Jake Paul has already been knocked out by Paulo Costa.
Really?
Because they brought Paulo Costa, Jake or Logan. I'm looking for it now. Paulo Costa knocked out Logan. Paulo Costa knocked out Logan Paul. And when he did, I remember Logan Paul waking up and going, "How did I do?"
I remember that video now.
Yes.
I remember that. So yeah, that would be some drama.
They not taking that fight. They're not going to take that fight. So, they're looking for the fights that they can win, and they're cherry picking those kids. And so it's weird to see someone like a Ben Askren, see someone like a Tyron Woodley in the tomato can kind of position.
Hey, they're not Paulo Costa. So
they are not.
We know now that Paulo may have an angle. They may have that angle that we're looking for. He could sit there and say, hey, you want to fight, you can fight me, and then watch them say, nah, we're good. And Paulo can really start calling them out and pressure.
Start chasing them around the way that they chased around people like Dylan Dennis and things like that.
Yeah, and like how Clubber Lang chased around Rocky until he got him shot.
Wow. Okay. I'm not going to respond to that one.
What?
Last one. By the way, Ariel Helwani announced yesterday that he was leaving ESPN. He said it's on his own terms. He's leaving after 3 years. No hard feelings. He signed a 3-year contract. They offered him a new contract. He found a lot of interesting activities or opportunities out there for him. and he is taking on another opportunity, which he has not announced yet. My guess is Ariel Helwani has gotten to be big enough in the MMA world that he could have his own company, and he could do just fine with the millions of followers that he has around the world.
And I agree. I'm just gonna miss Ariel in DC. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, Ariel, for me, starting this podcast, we're going on 6 years into this thing. Starting this podcast and even Combat Sports Talk in general back in 2011. This is one of those things where Ariel Helwani has always been kind of the guy that I've wanted to be like. Like, I've followed Ariel Helwani way back in 2006. Like, he was always that guy that was the soft-spoken, clear, never really too in your face with his reporting. And so that's the guy that I've always really supported. So I continue to support him. I wish him good luck, and I hope that he does well for himself in whatever he does. Want to send a shout out to Dr. Berber. Thank you so much. Please do support us. Hit that like and subscribe button. So the last story of the day before we go into UFC 263 and we do make our picks is Mini Habib. Like, everybody's been talking about Mini Habib. Mini Habib has been around for quite a while. Mini Habib has been around for a minute. And so but people, as they see it, they don't understand who Mini Habib is. Now, Mini Habib is a Mini Habib is a guy whose name is Hasbullah Nurmagomedov. And so no relation to Habib Nurmagomedov, by the way. But they call him Mini Habib because he's a little person who is found his way into the hearts of a lot of these Dagestani MMA fighters. And so he's from Dagestan, which is a region in Russia, and he has a TikTok and YouTube channel, and he is surrounded by these great fighters. And so people have been following him for a very long time. And so he came onto the scene recently for kind of the larger MMA world in a face-off with another little person whose name is... Well, I'm looking for it. Abdul Razik. What's the matter?
Let's continue with the story.
I want to know why your face is down. So you have Mini Habib facing off against a singer. This guy is a singer named Abdul Razik. And what we saw in the clip is Mini Habib comes over, throws kind of like a sidekick, and kicks Abdul Razik while he's sitting down. And so Abdul Razik's like, "No, you're not going to do that to me. You're not going to disrespect me." And so he takes off his hat, puts it on the chair. Mini Habib takes off his hat, puts it on the chair, and they come running at each other. And the guy who's kind of serving as, the Dana White or whatever, holds them apart. And literally they're so small that he's holding them apart like with like one hand each. They are having like a celebrity fight. It's an exhibition fight. It's taking place in Russia, but it's causing some frustration because little did I know, and maybe the rest of the community.
I saw what you just did too. I just saw.
Oh no, you know what? That is no pun intended there. No pun intended there. You are on another level, Mr. Keys. People may not have known that Russia has a dwarf athletic association. And so,
oh my goodness, and there it is, people.
We'll call it the DAA because I know dwarf is kind of a charged word. It's little person here in the United States. But the DAA, who is basically a governing body for fights between little people, they feel like this exhibition is unethical because of the comedic nature it's being played to in the audience. These are
As
people.
I am portraying, I'm so sorry. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry to people under 4'10" that I am laughing like this, but I am laughing as tears of shame because I find this. While I applaud the violence, and I know everybody has violence on every level, this is hilarious to me at the same time. I am so sorry. I admit my faults. I am only human
Yeah.
in this.
See,
Oh God,
that's all I'm
I'm
saying.
only
This
human.
is where we have to have the shame button because you might shame me for not having seen Taken, but I'm having a serious story here, and you're sitting here cracking up. So you see,
And if you want to put shame across the screen there, I would not be mad at you right now because I am horrible. I am a horrible human being because I am like, you know, but
yeah.
I'm
Look,
I'm
can we get
a
the
veteran.
shame? We can't get the
Yeah,
shame working
yeah,
on it.
yeah. I'm a veteran. I've got
Look.
dark
Can we get the
humor.
shame? Can't get the shame on the screen. It won't work.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's all right. Anyway, the DAA, who governs fights, for little people, they're concerned that this is being played up in the. Thank you. Look at that. There, we got somebody. Shame, Dr. Berber. You came to our aid. Shame.
The font isn't big enough there.
Yeah. So there you go.
Oh,
It's interesting because of the fact that it is being played up as comedic, and there are people who take their sport very seriously. Whether you are a large heavyweight who's 6'4", or if you're under 4'10", the pride of walking into the ring and putting your health on the line in order to measure your skill versus another person is universal. And so it's kind of one of those things where I get where they're coming from, but the fact is that because he is a TikToker, because the other guy's a musician, and everyone wants to see this fight, they're holding back the tide. There's no way that they're going to be able to stop this fight. People want to see it.
Exactly, because whether it's big beef or hamburger patty, beef is beef.
Yeah, I see. You see, now you got me sensitive to it. Did you use the word big beef versus hamburger patty? Like, see, now I'm sensitive to it. All right. The last thing, many people believe that. I'm so sensitive to it now that a lot of people, because I can't say MANY, a lot of people are concerned about about Hezbollah Magomedov. It's not Nurmagomedov. It's just Magomedov.
Magomedov, yes.
Hezbollah Magomedov. Sorry, it's not Nurmagomedov. It's Magomedov. Hezbollah Magomedov versus Abdul Razik. Both of them. Yeah. So Hezbollah is 18 years old, even though he's very small. And then Abdul Razik is 17 years old. So they're right about the same age. And so this fight between them, it's not little kids fighting. And that's the concern that people had in seeing, these combatants is that they were underage. No, they're not. They're actually teenagers, and this will be a fight that a lot of people want to see. There you go. That's it. Those are all the headlines that we're going to cover tonight. And now we're going to go into our final segment of the day, and that is the fight card. All right, this is the fight card. This is where we talk about the fights coming up this Saturday night. Before we do that, let's talk about the fight that we're going to see tonight, and that is Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. There are 4 fights on the card. Chad Johnson, not Ocho Cinco, versus Brian Maxwell. That's a contracted exhibition. You got Jarrett Hurd versus Luis Arenas, and that's a middleweight fight. Badu Jack has coming back, fighting Dervin Colina. That's a light heavyweight.
Why have I heard that name? Badu Jack.
Badu Jack fought in the fight. He fought as the co-main in the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. fight.
That's where I heard him. Okay,
and Badu Jack beat up that dude. I forgot the guy's name, but Badu Jack just kind of put on a clinic, and this guy was a fighter. He just never went down. Took all kinds of damage, but wouldn't go down. And so, Badu Jack is making his comeback to professional fighting. He's been gone a little while, and so these are really tune-up fights for him as he's getting ready to try to make a run at a light heavyweight title. And then the main event of the evening is Floyd Money Mayweather versus Logan Paul. Let's make our flash fight pick there. Who you got?
I'm going to give it to Floyd Mayweather, 50-0. He's got a perfect record. I'll put it on him. He's going to put on a defensive clinic like he usually does and make people look foolish.
Okay, I'm going to let you know that I am picking Floyd Mayweather just because I can't imagine a world where Logan Paul wins this fight. I am going to be sitting in horror.
What will happen tomorrow?
I'm going to be sitting in horror. I will probably go live because they're showing it at the Lion and Crown here in Allen. And so if you want to make it out there, me and George G Money Stallworth are going to be there. We're not broadcasting.
I don't want to cry if that happens, dude.
I don't want to broadcast. He doesn't want to broadcast.
Because he knows he don't want to see grown men crying either. Okay,
well, I already had to deal with Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson losing, right? So I don't want to have to see Floyd Mayweather get beat by a YouTuber and be I'm live on air.
There's a difference though, because Demetrius got beat by another professional MMA fighter. Okay, and for whatever it was worth, he got beat. If Floyd Mayweather, a man who retired with a perfect 50-0 record, gets beat by a YouTuber, okay, and then a TikTok influencing YouTuber, I wouldn't be safe in the America of June the 7th if that was to happen. I literally think that is the Snyder cut of Justice League at the end where Batman and the Joker were talking. I think that's that universe if that was to happen. I'm just saying. I do believe it is nightmare. It's the nightmare universe if that happens.
Bizarro world. There you go. All right, let's get into what's happening this weekend, Saturday, June 12th. UFC 263 Adesanya versus Vittori 2 at the Gila River Arena in Glendale, Arizona. Interestingly enough, the site of Adesanya versus Vittori 1. So,
interesting.
Same site, same combatants, perhaps a different outcome. Here we go. First fight of the night. We've got 5 fights on the card. Paul Craig versus Jamal Hill. That's at 205 pounds. That's a light heavyweight fight. You got Damien Maia versus Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad. You got Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. And then you got in the co-main event, the rematch, Davidson Figueroa versus Brandon Moreno 2. That was a barn burner the first time. I can't wait to see this one again. And then in the main event of the evening, you got the champion of the middleweight division, Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. Let's go ahead and we're going to do 4 flash fight picks, if you don't mind. I'm not so confident on the Jamal Hill versus Paul Craig, so you want to make that one?
I am. I'll make that one. It's going to be Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is on a perfect. He has a record of 8 wins, no loss. I mean, 9 wins, only 1 no contest. He basically has a perfect record, except it was overturned. Oh, he tested positive for marijuana in one of his fights, and that's the reason why they turned it into a no contest. So he's basically on a perfect run right now.
All right. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead with you in your assessment, and I'm going to take Hill as well. So no crow eating there unless we're both sharing a wing, all right?
All right, fair enough.
All right, next fight of the night, you got Damien Maia versus Bilal Muhammad. Of course, if Kelechi was here, I would be billing Damien Maia as the most dangerous man at 170 pounds. Of course, we know that not to be true anymore, but it does definitely gets under KC's skin. Who you got, Muhammad or Maia?
Under normal circumstances, I would take Damien Maia, but this is Bilal Muhammad. I don't think I don't think it's going to go well with Damian Maya. It's not going to be. I don't think Damian Maya will be ended. I think it's going to go to the judges, but I think it's going to be Bilal's night.
You know, it really depends on where the fight takes place. If the fight takes place on the ground, then I want to give it to Damian Maya. If it stays standing, Damian Maya has some of the worst striking in the history of 170 pounds. I can't see. I just can't stand watching this dude throw punches. It literally is like watching Glass Joe or Kaiser von Kaiser from freaking Punch Out. You know, it's just awful. Tyson, you know, what was it? Piston Honda, just throwing a punch and leaving it out there. You know, I can't stand
Kaiser, at least he's got head movement. Okay, that's all I'm saying. He's got some serious head movement.
Got some serious head movement. Got that head wobble.
Exactly.
So while you know, my statement is going to stand. That depends on where this fight takes place because Damian Maya is still a ground technician. And if he uses his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu aggressively like I've seen him do, I mean, the Rick Story fight versus Damian Maya is a classic. But I'm going to go with Bilal Muhammad just because he's younger, he's scrappier, and I think he can keep this fight standing. And if he does, then Damian Maya's in for a long 3-round fight. But the moment this fight goes to the ground, the balance of that fight shifts heavily in favor of Damian Maya. So we'll see whose jiu-jitsu gets to, you know, as Michael Chandler says, anti-jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, because we all know that Damian Maya's jiu-jitsu belt is made of gold. So it's made of adamantium. It came from Wakanda and it's made of vibranium. I mean,
okay, you saw I was getting ready. The smirk went to one side. I was like, wait, you're saying adamantium and it came from Wakanda? But yes, you were correct. The vibranium is there. You're still perfect. You're still undefeated in Marvel.
I'm side-eyeing you right now. I'm side-eyeing you.
No. I'm saying I'm bowing down to your knowledge. You're still undefeated in Marvel knowledge. That's all I'm saying. Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. Who you got?
Don't know. I have. You know who wins in this fight? The fans win because
yes,
that's who wins. The fans win. Okay, there's no way that you're gonna get me to choose this fight because I like both of them. I've always been a Nate Diaz because he's a Gracie fighter and he embodies the spirit of the Gracies when it goes in that ring. So Leon Edwards, though, is such a murderer.
Here, I'll make my pick first.
Yes, please.
Leon Edwards is going to break Nate Diaz.
They said that about Conor McGregor, too.
Conor McGregor was coming up from 155 pounds to fight 170 Nate Diaz. Let's just remember what Jorge Masvidal did to Nate Diaz. Like, remember that? It was a man against a boy. Like, Leon Edwards is going to do the same thing to Nate Diaz. I really think Nate Diaz should be fighting at 155.
I agree. I would rather see Nate Diaz fight consistently at 155. But you know what? I'm still going to choose Nate Diaz just because win, lose, draw, we all win. Okay, the fans win. All right, and so I'm taking that.
Good. I'm glad you are because somebody got to eat that crow. All right, here we go. Co-main event of the evening: Davidson Figuereto versus Brandon Moreno. This was a close fight. Figuereto came out in the end, but it was fight of the night. It was a fight worthy of being considered fight of the year. Who you got in this fight?
Once again, the fans. That's who I have because this is a fight here. If there has been you can only call a few fights perfect fights out there. This is one of them. All right. When they last fought, you didn't move from your seat because they were going for it. I mean, they were really going for it. And ever since then, they've been talking trash to each other. Oh man, they might start fighting before they even get up to the ring, before they even get up to the stage to face off.
But who you got?
I'm gonna give it to Davidson Figuereto.
Okay.
Just because he's been hilarious on on his social media.
I just like to see him do hair.
Like I said, if you got a few minutes and you're bored, go there to watch. Go find Davidson Figureto on Instagram, on Twitter. It is the funniest stuff you'll ever see. I promise you. Okay, because he's been learning English since the last fight. He promised that he was going to learn English, and I ain't meaning to talk about nobody's learning English, because listening to me speak Spanish is just as hilarious.
Oh
okay?
yeah,
But
there was a note, by the way, a little bit earlier in the show. Just want to put that out. The H is silent in hijo. There you go.
And that person right there is actually one of the people that taught me Spanish. So yeah. See?
Why'd you insult Miss Gutierrez then? Why you insult her by saying
she's correcting me? Actually, she is correcting me.
But you just said your Spanish is like not good, and you're like, and she taught it to me.
Yeah, and so I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Don't beat me. Okay, I'm afraid. Okay. That's Ryan like sitting there trying to start stuff. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying, that's like saying I'm a bad cook, and oh, by the way, this person over here taught me how to cook, taught me how to boil water.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
See, that's what you're doing. So, Miss Gutierrez out there, I'm sending a shout out. I'm sending you love. Teach me Spanish. I speak a little bit. I think I can speak a little bit better than Mr. Keys.
Doubt it, but
All right. Okay, I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno. One, because you picked Davidson Figueredo. I would rather pick the other person because this fight was so close anyway. Yeah. I think it's probably pretty close to being a coin toss of who's going to win this fight. But also,
it is.
But also, I just like to see how he got in. Nobody thought he was going to be able to stand in there with Figueredo, and he did. And so, as far as I'm concerned, he's earned my vote this fight.
We got an early fight of the year contender right here.
Yes, we do.
It screams fight. It's definitely screams fight of the night.
Yes,
but it also screams fight of the year.
All right, we got the main event of the evening: Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. I'll go ahead and make my pick. I'm staying on the hype train that is the last style bender, Israel Adesanya. When it comes to being able to be an elite striker, managing distance, and putting those strikes in surgical places, speed, not power, I got Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, you know what? Like I said, if you ever get the chance, watch the full interview between these two and Michael Bisping and look at the body language. Israel has a way of getting under people's skin that is quite excellent. However, in this exchange here, the emotion is real, and so I'm going to give it to Israel just for the simple fact that when he gets in the ring, he doesn't fight with emotion; he fights with his techniques. Marvin Vettori is an actual barbarian. I see him losing his cool at some point, especially the way that Israel strikes. He strikes to frustrate, then he strikes to finish. And that's what we're going to see here. So put me in Israel's corner for the win.
All right. Here's the last question I have for you on this fight, and then we'll wrap up.
Right.
We saw Israel Adesanya struggle to stay off the ground versus Jan Blachowicz. We know that Marvin Vettori has added a whole new level of wrestling to his skill set. Do we think that this fight goes Marvin Vettori's way if he can get his hands on Israel Adesanya and bring this fight to the ground?
Okay, it's going to take more than just getting your hands on Israel Adesanya. It's going to be for Vettori to truly be successful. And this is just a given off what we remember from the last fight. He's going to have to ground him and stay on him and pray that Israel didn't learn some good wrestling defense in the time since then. Well, which we know that Israel has.
If this fight looks anything like the Kevin Holland fight, then Israel Adesanya may be in for a long night. Israel says that Marvin Vettori has a very, very small gas tank, that he may look good for a round or two, but this is a 5-round fight. Remember, their first fight was a 3-round fight. So this is a 5-round fight, And perhaps Israel is looking for the long game, get Marvin Vettori out in deep water, and then try to finish him in rounds 4 or 5. So that may be what we see in this fight.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's going to take, because if he grounds him, but if Vettori sits there and grounds him and mauls him like a bear, I don't know, man. That's you bring a good point, but we also look at that at the fight with Blachowicz. He had weight on him. He had a lot of weight on him. So I mean, it's a difference, like you've pointed out and pointed out to me many times before. It's a difference between coming up to weight rather than coming down to weight. There's a difference there. And Blachowicz was coming down to there. Israel was going up to that. There's a world of difference, and he proved it.
Right. So we'll see. So keep your eye on whether or not this fight takes place on his feet or on the ground. Very similar to the Damien Maya Bilal Muhammad. If this fight can stay on the ground, then I think it plays well for Marvin Vettori in the short game. As it gets longer, it's going to come down to his gas tank. Can he keep Israel Adesanya on the ground long enough to pull out the win? Or is it going to be 1, 2, and 3 for Marvin Vettori? He gasses, and the next thing you know, he's getting put to sleep in round 4 and 5 because he can't defend against the lightning speed and surgical striking of Israel Adesanya. Follow us on social media. On Instagram, I'm at Combat Sports Talk.
And I am at Keys to Victory, and that's Keys with the ES. Follow me there. You'll see me on my weight loss journey. It looks like I'm stabilizing at 255. I didn't lose anything this week, maybe about a couple of tenths of a pound. So, I'll keep you posted. As a matter of fact, as soon as I get off here, I might go for a little walk.
You know what? That's really cool. And maybe that's something that we could potentially start. And so I want you to think about this, is if you're going to walk at a certain time every day, maybe I can align to that, and we could do a little bit of a live UFC talk while we walk. Now it's going to be like, well, okay.
Oh my God.
But it might actually be cool walking and talking. We call it Combat Sports Talk, walking and talking, and maybe people can go and do their walks along with us. Get exercise on these wonderful late spring and early summer days. Get some exercise, lose some weight, and talk about some MMA. Maybe we can go live or do something like that for the fans.
I like
Think
that.
about it.
I definitely
think about
like
it.
that.
All right.
All right,
By the
cool.
way, George is darkside_Muay Thai_. He's got a fight he's trying to get into on July 24th. So he's also cutting weight. He's also losing weight. And so the only person who's fat and happy is Kalechi Casey Onyebuchi on Instagram at Push Pull Pray. See, I can say this stuff because he ain't here.
Yeah, you ain't here, Casey. You can't defend yourself, sir.
All right. You can find us on our website at combatsportstalk.com. That's where you'll find everything all the way back to episode number 1. Well, this is episode 173. You can go back to episode 1 and hear what we were talking about way back then. And we are on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, YouTube. And want to send a shout out to MMA Junkie, MMA Fighting, MMA Mania, Bloody Elbow, and the Intelligent Defense Discussion Group. All the sites that are providing us the stories and the discussions that we use on the show. I got to say, I'm going to apologize to my folks in the Intelligent Defense Discussion Group. It's been a little stagnant for about a month. I apologize. I'm going to dig back in there, but definitely join us and start having the conversations or extending the conversations that we're having here on that group. So on behalf of John Keys and the rest of the Combat Sports Talk team, my name is Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs. We'll catch you next time.